Hey guys, once again welcome back to my channel Moodler Arjun. Now before getting ahead with this video, please quickly subscribe to my channel if you still haven't. In this video, I have covered a very interesting and equally important topic, that is events and scheduled tasks in Moodle. And I have also described what role does it play in Moodle development. So without wasting any time, let's get started. So now let's list down all the points which we are going to cover in this video, like what are events, what are scheduled tasks inside Moodle, how to create an event, how to write a scheduled task in Moodle, what are the trigger points from where we can call these events and scheduled tasks, and also I'm going to show you one example plugin. Like I'm going to create a local plugin and showcase you how does these functionalities work. So if you guys don't know, let me tell you that in new login system in Moodle, it has changed quite a lot since Moodle 2.7 version onwards. So guys, this is going to be my local setup of Moodle 3.10 version. I'm going to log in as an admin right now, and I will take you through the events and scheduled tasks where exactly they exist inside administration. Also, let me show you a glimpse of my plugin view page, which is basically the functionality I'm going to show you of sending mails to a number of users by typing their email IDs. It requires some other settings which I'll be covering in this video next. So let's get quickly to the site administration part and see where are all those options available to see the events and create scheduled tasks. So you can either search in the search box, or you can go to the reports and click on logs. You will get a page which will describe you events and logs. Also in the task tab, you can go and click on scheduled task and check what are the tasks written. Also for this particular setting, SMTP, you're going to need some credentials. Why we need this? Because I'm going to use this to send mail for my functionality. You can test your outgoing mail configuration in this particular page. It's a pre-existing page. Over said that, now let's go to the events and scheduled task tab which I have already opened and see what are the logs available there. If you come to this page, you can see a number of options as filters to select between the site and the courses and the participants and the what type of error you can or the logs you want to see. After selecting all your filters, you can just click on get these logs. You will get all the recent logs and the old logs listed like this particular manner. So what are these? Basically it shows times and the name of the user who is running basically, and what are the context on which these events have run, the event name. You can put a description over there and from which IP address this has been coming from. You can check it, all this information over here. So we are going to create a similar kind of logs and see how does it get listed over here via plugin. Now to check the scheduled tasks where exactly they are listed, you need to go to the server tabs, and under task option you need to click on scheduled task. So it's going to list down all the scheduled tasks which are needed for the system, and these are all running on basis of cron depending on the times which is set for individual scheduled tasks. So if I search for my plugin local_mail trainer, this is the scheduled task which I have already written over here. Now these are the options which says when exactly this has been run, what is the name of the component, and then you get an option to edit as well and see the logs which shows you when in the past this has been run and when exactly the next one is going to be. Also this particular page shows you the minute, hour, day, days of week, month, when exactly this particular scheduled task is going to run. and I'm gonna show you how to write all these settings via code. Now if you click this button over here, that's a log button which tells you the previous log for this particular scheduled event. You can download the log in a machine and check it. Now let's go back and see what are the options for editing. Now if I click on the edit button, I get this page where I can set the particular timings when exactly I'm going to run or schedule the run for this particular task. These are the default values which are coming from a plugin, and in this page you can override those values. The other options are disabled and reset. Reset is basically if you enable it, it will reset the value to the default settings. Moving up next and continue our note making habit. But no, wait, stop right there. Guys, I haven't given you exactly what these events and scheduled tasks mean. Now if you know it already, that's the best thing. If you do not, let me give you just a small summary of what are these events and scheduled tasks in definition. So this is bit a theoretical part, but this is equally important for you to understand and write the code. Now Moodle has given ample of APIs related to task APIs and the scheduled task as well. You can go through them and read it one by one. What are the event APIs, how to create event, how to write events, how to call them, all of the information over here, and get it with an example, not particularly, but they have specified in quite a good manner. But let's skip this part as well. So if you guys can look at my screen right now, I have summarized the events in a short manner. So basically these are the information that tells you that something has happened in a Moodle instance. You can also say that events are the internal notifications telling us that something has happened inside the Moodle instance. Basically these are used for loggings, reports, and anything or everything that is happening or has happened inside your Moodle instance. Any cron process or any CRUD operation by any user or any admin action via command line or any custom script which is run by admin, all this can be said as an event. We need to understand basically two things over here. First is event monitoring and second is event trigger. Event monitoring basically allows admin or teachers to receive notifications when certain events happen in Moodle instance, and similarly like event triggers are basically which allows Moodle events to be monitored, and a workflow is to be triggered when the event occurs inside Moodle instance. Now talking about the scheduled task in Moodle, so basically these are tasks that runs on a regular schedule by the help of a cron process. So cron basically is a script or a command line function that calls certain tasks in Moodle to make certain changes like database changes, moves files around, clean up data, and other time-based activities. So as you can see here below, I have made a note which says that tasks can run in parallel and processes use locking to prevent tasks from running at the same time, which allows cron to be triggered from multiple web servers that serve the same Moodle instance. What does this line basically means is, locking is required whenever you need to prevent two processing accessing the same resources at the same time, so that the performance or the usage can be better. So I'm not going to take you through the lock APIs. You can do the research from your end and understand what exactly this locking is in Moodle. Additionally, talking about the scheduled task, there are certain scheduled tasks that may run from the web UI individually, but still we are going to need to run the cron. Now let's talk about the local plugin, which is mail to trainer plugin, which I have developed for sending mails to a number of users when you enter mails separated by comma. If you submit the button, it will send the mail to these particular two email IDs, and now we are going to check and verify by logging into the email accounts. For the reference, I am using a local plugin but you can use any plugin type to create events and schedule tasks and check it from your end. Now, the mail we have received on this particular email account, which is the same message and the subject which we have put in a view page of the plugin. Now let me check with the other account. I should have received a mail. Now I'm opening the second account, and as you can see, I have received the mail here as well, which means the plugin is working perfect. Now let's close these tabs and let's move forward. So where does this leads us to? So basically, let's go to the logs and check what are the events which are getting logged here. So as you can see, I have received 2 logs over here for the component mail trainer, which is the name of my plugin, along with a snapshot I have attached over here like this, and also the descriptions for which the email IDs I have used to send the mails. This shows that our events are getting logged perfectly. Now I'll not talk about the scheduled task in this section right now. Rather, I will take you directly to the code base, where I'm going to show you how to create all these events and run in a manner. So this is the plugin called as Mail to Trainer, and it's a local plugin, and depending on the requirement you can define the structure of the plugin. I'm using sendmail.php as a view page for this plugin, which is used to send mails to as many users using comma separated values. Now this particular sendmail.php page has all the page elements required for a PHP page in Moodle. I suggest that you use all the page objects required for this particular page, like set URL, page layout, all the context, title, and etc. Navigation, all the elements, whichever is needed. Now I'm using a template based mustache file over here, like mail form to create the form, and I'm using a JS file as well to trigger the mails using Ajax. I'm using PHP Storm editor, so as per your convenience you can use whatever you feel like. Now this is the structure of my plugin, and under template folder I have placed mail form .mustache file, which is basically displaying this particular form and all the buttons and all the required elements of the page to create the form. I suggest that you use all the IDs very carefully for the form elements which we are going to use over here, and because we are using Ajax for summation of this form. I'm using Moodle defined AMD structure for the JS files. The file name is sendmail.min.js and the method name is mailtemp, which is the initial method which will be called. Now if I go to the AMD structure, I'm not using grunt for my local, but I suggest that you run grunt before deploying this particular JS file so that it gets converted into a min.js file. This particular block of code is for the validation I'm using in the form, and mailtemp is the main method of this sendmail.js file. These are all cosmetic elements basically for validation and the UI purpose. So from here to this particular line, it's all for the validation and the UI purpose. The main method basically starts from the submit button over here. When we click the cancel button ID and the submit button ID, as you can see over here, I'm using the JS files. Now if the user cancels it, basically it goes to some URL which is called as main URL, which I'm passing as a hash value or the template context value in this particular from PHP page to my mustache page. There is another validation I'm using for the mail IDs to check whether the user has entered at least one email IDs or not. This is quite optional, so you can skip this particular block of code and move on to the next section. Coming back to the second option, which is basically when the user submits a form, an Ajax is being called and a method called as local_mail_user is triggered, along with some arguments like the subject, the message, and all the user email IDs, which I have just stringify over here like this particular manner which converts the JavaScript object into a JSON string, and I'm passing all these values onto my method. I'm pretty sure that you must be knowing how to use Ajax in MD structure, how to call promises. If not, you can just look at this structure. It's quite simple to understand. So now let's look at its method, which is local mail user, and where exactly it is coming from. On the left panel, you can see that we have a DB folder in our plugin, which contains a services.php file, which is basically used to write the services, external services for this particular plugin or for any other structure or plugins in Moodle. So it contains the service name and the array of functions which are or a part of the service. I have already made a video on web services and how to call them and how to write them. You can go and check the video over here. The mail user method is written in external lib.php, which is basically located in this location outside the DB folder and inside our plugin. External lib.php contains the method, the parameter. Basically, any web service has three methods attached to it: parameter, return, and the actual method. So this is already mentioned in my earlier videos, so you can go and check how the structure is defined. So this is my class name, which is basically extending the external API class, and I have used three arguments here as subject, message, and the users, which is being passed from the JS file to my PHP file. So as you can see on my screen that this is mail_user, which is my main method, which takes three arguments: subject, message, and the users. I'm using JSON decode to convert the JavaScript string into PHP object or array, so that I get all the email IDs in an array. Here I am looping all the email IDs one by one using a for each loop, and further passing all these email IDs individually along with the message and subject into a helper method. So as I enter all these email IDs using comma separated value, this is the UI I get over here. You can enter as many email IDs, and all the email IDs get looped in the for each loop, which I showed you like here. So I'm using a namespace class called as helper, and I'm pointing to the method written inside this helper class for further implementation. Like the method is process_instant emails, and I'm passing the parameters from above. So if you guys are not familiar much with the namespace and the file system approach in PHP, I suggest you go and read about those. I'll be making a descriptive video on that in future as well. So this is my method, which is basically a part of the helper class, and it's written in helper.php file. Let me show you the location of the file, which is present inside the classes folder over here along with the event and task folder. So if open this file, you'll get this like here. I'm using the namespace as local mail to trainer, and other classes I'm using over here using the use keyword for further usage. Let's come back to a method process_instant emails, where I'm using a default Moodle method email_to_user, which requires an user object. Now the issue is we are not sending any existing user these mails. We are sending it to any non-existing Moodle user, which can be any email ID. So here I'm just faking the user object using the ID as -99, so that the email to user function works fine, as it requires only a user object and other parameters. Other parameters are fine, but in case of user object, I'm just faking it. Also, you can see here I'm using a local mail to trainer event class having a method name called as mail send, and further passing my email ID into that. Let me take you to this method local_mail to trainer_events. Basically, this is the class, and it's written in local libvirt PHP, which I have already required in my earlier method. And the function is mail underscore send, which is used to handle the event or trigger the event. If you look at this function closely, this is how we trigger an event in Moodle. Since Moodle 2.7 onwards, the add to log function has been deprecated, but the existing log tables still be present with existing data intact. So in the new logging system, event class name is a unique identifier of each event. So in this example, the class name is mail underscore send, which is basically located in classes and event folder as the file name as mail underscore send.php. You should note that the file name and location must match the class name for the use of autoloading. So this is my event definition where my class mail underscore send is extending the core event base class. And also, if you talk about event naming convention, we should make sure that we have a clear event name so that it can help us read what events are being triggered and defining what the event's properties has been defined in the event class. So if I summarize what I have spoken for the last 5 minutes, first thing is add to log has been deprecated since Moodle 2.7 version. And as per the new logging system, events are triggered by creating a new instance of the class event and by executing the method trigger as in this screen, as you can see here, like $event arrow trigger method, like here. Now if I quickly take you to this event class, which is mail underscore sent. So this event class contains information in form of these methods and properties, as you can see in the screen, and this list of properties are passed by any developers who is creating this event, or say that it can be generated automatically wherever it is applied. Okay, and please do remember that some of these parameters, or sorry, not parameters, the properties are not mandatory. Also, we have seen that while writing the events, the observers or say the event handlers are defined as an array with some properties like this, and also remember that they are cached, so you need to purge cache every time you make a change. Now let's see how the log data is being displayed over here. So earlier we have created an event and called the event, so the listing will be here, and if you see the event class, you can see the resemblance of the URLs and the names and the description whatever we are writing in the event class. Like this get URL, it's basically referring to the URL which you have mentioned for the page, for a specific page basically, and other details as well, like descriptions and the name of the event. If you want to read more about the properties which holds information about the events and or the methods which does come some computation on the data into the event classes, you can go to the Moodle event APIs and read more about this. The list is quite extensive and they have described it quite well. So if we revise what we have done here is, so please make a note, it might be fast. So in this PHP page we are calling this JS file after the form is being submitted, and Ajax is being called, which passes these three parameters to our web service mail underscore user, which further calls a method mail underscore user, which is written in external lib.php and already defined in the services.php, like here the class path and the method name. And this method in again calls a helper class method, which is like process instant mails, which is basically used for the functionality of sending the mails to the user whatever we have entered in the form. And furthermore, it calls our event class like local mail to return event, and the method is mail underscore send. And the remaining story we have already covered, like I can say multiple times till here. So let's just finish quickly with the event part and let's get started with the scheduled task next. Now as we say scheduled tasks, so basically these are the tasks that runs on a regular schedule. Now to make you understand in a better way, I have created these settings for my plugin as managed trend mail sending, which contains the mail sending information like subject and the mail body, and to whom the mail will be sent automatically when the cron runs as a part of scheduled task. These are the settings which I have made for my local plugin and which can be controlled via administration onto this page. I'm pretty sure that you might be knowing how to create settings for a local plugin for admin. Now I want you guys to look at the screen right now and understand this task array which contains a lot of attributes which we'll be seeing in next few minutes one by one. So Moodle has provided already a very good documentation on how to write and create and run the task APIs in your Moodle instance. So you can go through these one by one, and I'll be covering some of the topics from here as well, and the example I'm going to show via my local plugin. Now let me quickly give you an understanding about the scheduled tasks, what exactly these are. And as I mentioned earlier, this runs on a regular schedule, but yes, still you need to run the cron script via admin CLI or via web browser. So there is something called as task scheduler, which is a tool that allows you to perform some action automatically when a particular condition is met. For example, some emails are sent out automatically while others are scheduled and only sent out when the cron runs. Other example, like the reports can be affected by the cron. And also one point I would like to raise here is your site might not work or stop working if you never run cron on your application. Now coming back to task.php, as I was saying earlier, that this is the task array which contains a lot of attributes like class name and blocking and minute hours as a default schedule for running the task. You can see over here like minutes, hours, days and month we can mention with some default values, or we can set it as per our requirement. If we scroll down further to this page, on the down below we can see the cron syntaxes for the scheduled timings, what it can be and what value does it represent, which means like you can see here for the day, star means every day, star by 2 like every second day. Similarly minutes, months, all the values we can see and do our calculation from our end. Now if I go back to my code and we see what exactly values I am setting over here, like for day, hour, I'm putting some value like as a 8. So I want this scheduled task to run 8 AM in the morning, so I put hour as 8 over here like this, you can see. So I would suggest you run through this page and set all the values as per your need when exactly you want to run the scheduled task individually. You can set up the according time intervals. Now there is another attribute as a class name. What exactly this means, let me tell you. So basically these are the namespace class names of your task, and for the auto loading rules the naming convention is like this: the plugin name / task and the actual task name, which is also the file name. If you go inside the classes folder and inside you find task folder, and if you go inside you can see the file name as process_mail, and which is same as the class name. If I open it from the editor you can see over here, and which further is a subclass of the core task scheduled task, and the same class is being used over here like in the class name property as process mail, which is similar to this processmail.php class name. So I hope this is quite clear on this part. So this is my actual definition of the scheduled task known as process_mail, and this is where it gets executed with the help of a helper method. I'm using other namespace classes for my purpose, which you can also do as per your requirement. So I'm using here as process mails, which is a method defined in helper class. If I open this method, it takes me to the helper class and the method look like this. Now here I am, as you can see in the screen, like I'm using get_config to get all the values from my plugin settings, which are basically the PDF enable checkbox, subject message and email IDs which we have put as a comma separated values. And again I'm calling another method send mail with the attachment to process our scheduled task furthermore. This method send mail with the attachment belongs to the same class like it is written over here, and as I expand this, what exactly it does is take all the email IDs from the config settings, and in a loop it sends the mail with an attachment file. I'll show you where exactly I have pasted the file and how I'm calling into this method. The email IDs are stored as a string, so I'm just exporting it using the comma delimiter, and furthermore I'm using array filter so that I can get the exact email ID values after a iteration. And then furthermore, as you can see, I'm using for each loop to loop all the email IDs one by one so that all the email IDs can be processed and mail can be sent over there. Also, to get the attachment files, I'm using a very simple logic over here. Now I'll take you to the data folder of my Moodle instance. I'm keeping all my Moodle instance data folder at one place. So for this particular instance, it is Moodle 310, and if I go to the local directory and mail to trainer, which is the plugin name, I have placed a abc.pdf file over here, and I'll be using this as an attachment. So this is the way I'm just giving a path to the data folder directory like this, and I'm just calling that file over here as an attachment to be sent in the mail. So if the file exists, it will send the file as an attachment, otherwise it doesn't send any attachment, just the mail and body. Also, I'm calling email to user, which is the Moodle default method, along with this parameter like the user object and from where exactly it's coming, subject message, and other attachment file names and other attributes which can be as optional. Just below the email to user, you can see a method being called over here, local mail to trainer event. Basically, this is an event method which is same as I have shown you earlier while we were doing the events in Moodle. And in this method, like here you can see process instant mails, which was basically when we were submitting the form, the emails was being sent. So there also I was calling the same method, mail underscore sent. And here also in our case, where exactly we are scheduling the task, and furthermore we are using the same mail underscore sent event method to create an event using schedule task. So when the cron is running, so all these associated methods are being called sequentially one by one. And if I open this mail underscore send, this is exactly same method which we have used for triggering the events manually, but this time this will be called for the scheduled task once the cron is running. So this might be a recap of the event trigger method, name, description, URLs, what we have been used, and also the version.php. Once you write any scheduled task, the versions.php has to be upgraded furthermore. So this is how the scheduled task page looks like, where the date values, hour values we have put as per the task.php from here. As you can see, this can be furthermore altered by admin. And once we save and execute cron, let me show in the next screen how exactly this can be done. So we just need to call admin/cron.php via browser. We can run this as a CLI script as well. Both ways fine. Depending on how big the task queue is, it might load differently or take some time for some people, but when it runs, the output looks like this. This means it has been successfully run. This went quite quickly for me. So as you can see here, the next run is saying to be in the morning next, but I'm going to show you once again instantly how we can run it ASAP. And first let us check what exactly the functionality was, whether it has been working or not. So this is the first time I'm running this cron for this particular feature Yes, I'm getting the mail over here, as you can see here. Also, I'm getting the attachment like abc.pdf file, as I mentioned earlier, and the timing is like recent itself. So let me show you how we can run it once again, so that it makes more sense. For this, let me change this value of hour from 8 to star and save changes, so that it can be run instantly once again. And let us run the cron in another tab once again. I just reload this page and we'll see whether our method is being called or not. Let's just give it a minute. It might take more time for few people, so there is nothing to worry about. So let's just see when exactly it gets completed. Yeah, so this is done here right now. Now how to verify? I'm just copying this method process underscore mail and I'm searching in this output. So as you can see here, yes, it has been executed successfully, and this is the what exactly the memory it is being consumed when exactly it has been started. That means our scheduled task is being called successfully, and for the outcome of this scheduled task, basically it should send a mail that again we will verify. Also, we are going to see the event which were being triggered when this cron is run. So as you can see here, the 3 mails has been sent to 3 different users. From here, from this particular settings, we have used all these email IDs. Now if I log in to all these email IDs separately, I should see a mail along with an attachment. So let's just verify in that next screen. Also, you can check all these details, whatever I think I have already shown you all this when we were triggering the events or when we were doing the event part. So it is exactly same, so it's nothing new. Yes, so this is working absolutely fine. I'm getting the mails in all my accounts, so this is done. Thanks guys for being patient with me, and I hope you would have certainly got something fruitful out of this video, and I hope to share all my thoughts in my next video. Thank you very much.